Yay, we're live.
All right, welcome everyone. We're live. Just going to make sure this hasn't got double sound happening. We're live. So, all right, here we are. So, we had a little bit of techie trouble, and here we are live streaming. And the topic of today, there will be a few more members join us soon. So, the topic of today is a call to a new way of relating in the time of the Great Awakening, this sacred time that we're in. And this topic was one that I called and is very close to my heart. And what sort of the background from my side was that we are at a time in history where there's a great reshuffle that's happening. And I don't know if everybody's experiencing this, but certainly in all of my communities in this area, there's sorry, I'm just realizing that I'm not pinned. One second. There we go. So we're at a time of a great reshuffle, which includes people moving back to their homelands and across the country, wherever they're being drawn to return to. I'm noticing that at the moment, and I'm also noticing that a lot of like really long-term relationships are separating. And there's a great big reshuffle happening within people's relationships. And I'm also noticing, and part of that is the whole COVID stress, that the incubator that people have been under, the pressure cooker. But I feel like somehow there may be a preparing for this new chapter of whatever the next energy is coming in, that there's a great big reshuffle going on with relationships, which may mean like a reshuffle within your relationship, your current relationship. And one thing that I'm really noticing in my feminine embodiment, my women's circles, is that there's a lot of women who are really struggling with the men in their lives. And I'm sure within the men's groups, they're talking about the same thing. So this is actually an opportunity for, we're meant to have two men joining us today. Let's see if they can make it. But this is where, an opportunity to explore the masculine, feminine, where there's maybe wounding and where we need to call in healing around that, and that includes within ourselves. So the work starts with us, excuse me, within our own masculine, feminine balancing. And my sense is that yes, there's all this sort of relationship work, which builds the foundation for really healthy, wholesome relationships, which includes doing our shadow work. It includes doing all our own healing journey to be whole humans, and to turn up to our relationships as whole humans. But I also sense that during this big reshuffle, we're going to be moving into a time when that polarity and that duality will be less. So, the merging of the masculine and feminine way of being within ourselves and within our relationships, potentially. We could be moving into a new frequency and way of being, and I'm certainly calling that in. And I know that a lot of people in my community are also calling that in, for that deeper level of healing and upgrade within the relational system. So, and that'll obviously have a ripple out effect with harmony on the planet and also within our family structures. So I just would like to introduce, we've got Alison and Joe in the space, and Daniel and Elias will be joining us. So I'd like to pass over to one of you guys to share a little bit about who you are, why you feel called to this topic of a call to a new way of relating.
Perfect. Thank you, Zoe. My name is Allison, everybody, and I am the founder and CEO of the spiritually based revolutionary lifestyle brand, Fully Exposed. And we really stand for the powerful individuality which really weaves in beautifully to this topic of calling in a new way of relating. And the other aspect would be the synergistic heterarchy, which is moving away from hierarchy structures in business and really dialing people into their zone of genius and their maximum contribution to a collective mission, whatever that would be. And this also shows up a lot in the work that I do. The brand is a very feminine based brand. And as we move into opportunity, like I always like to say, we're always either doing one of two things. We're either creating opportunity or we are creating disconnection. And the more that we illuminate and recognize the differentiation of the energies within us to reach unity, the more that we can consciously have more synergistic relationships and partnerships, whether that's in our personal lives or in our business. And I'm very passionate about, for collective change in the government structures, it necessarily isn't the structure itself, it's the quality of the people within the structures that is shifting, that needs to shift. So really it starts with our powerful individuality, and then it goes to our kitchen tables. And ultimately the children are our future, and the children are really what's at the heart of what I do with my work in the world.
Fabulous. Thanks for that, Alison. Everything you just spoke on, I resonated a lot with, because one thing that you pointed out is if we're not in creation, we are being disconnected, which is what I work with women, is being connected to their true essence. So, being in harmony with yourself, who you are, and bringing that into your family. So working with why you've got disharmony within yourself and why that's projecting out into your life. And that's starting, behind closed doors in your family, home environment, and that ripples out into your finances, your career, your social life or lack thereof, family time. So this is why I'm really passionate about this, because I find that we're all finding new ways to relate to each other, working in higher realms and working with higher frequencies, especially with our children. They're already come in with a higher frequency than what we adults like to think that we are bringing to the table.
Yes, and I noticed too that the children coming in are requiring a higher frequency of the women to come in. So that is another reason I believe why our individuality and making our evolution a priority is also key. So then it's a smoother transition into the third dimension for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, Alison, if you have come across any children in your work that are like starseed children, because I know that terminology gets thrown around, and I feel like not many people, for instance, who I used to be 2 years ago, had no idea what starseed was. So can you educate someone who's not really familiar with that?
I honestly am not too familiar with that. I have, since I started my journey 7 years ago is when I had my spiritual awakening. I did have the pendulum swing, because normally when we collapse out of a light spectrum, we experience both extremes of a duality. So I was really far in rabbit holes and down things in that avenue of realms like that, but I do not know specifically about that. Zoe, do you know much about the star seed?
Yeah, so the star seeds, and particularly with what Tash is referring to, is the sense that star seeds generally feel like they're not of this world, and it relates to this sense like people who connect themselves as star seeds feel that they have come from like the star realms, if you like, and they feel like they're a guest here, and they often feel quite out of place here on the planet with the modern world and the modern way, and they feel like this sort of longing to return back to their sense of home and connection and who they are. So yes, yeah, that's for people who are sort of old souls or are very spiritually orientated, that's often a experience for them. So yeah. I find I'm absolutely fascinated by this microcosm macrocosm. So I don't know if anyone else is getting the cosmic joke of what's happening today in our session. Because
Yeah.
this is like an absolute replay of what feels like happens in my women's spaces. And I'm going to be daring and just sort of like name this out loud, and let's just see. I'm a big believer, and this is part of this relationship dynamic. I'm a big believer in our authentic voice. So I just want to name the elephant in the room. I find it so fascinating that the three of us women, out of the group of five of us, the three of us women are here doing this, and the men are
Female
not.
domination, is it?
No, no, not that. Just the men. Where are the men?
Yeah, yeah,
Where are the
yeah.
men in this? This is something. Now
I truly, yeah.
I've just messaged Elias. He's coming. He's 10 minutes late, and Daniel's 5 minutes late. And there's a perfection about this too. So this is not about wrongness or anything like this. I just full trust that this is playing out as it's meant to be playing out. But this is something that I am noticing in family structures, and from all the women that I speak to. I speak to more women in my work than hearing the men's version. So it'd be so interesting to hear the men's version, and they're coming. But the women often feel like they're waiting for their men to do this work, to do this emotional work, their spiritual work, to really meet them where they've been, because I think the women's movements had to do a lot of that. They've had to really like work on liberating themselves, and there's the feminine movement. Sorry, my neighbours seems to be making noise. I might just take a pause for a second and make sure the door's shut.
Yeah. It's funny that Zoe's touching on that, because I feel like that's been my spiritual journey as well in the last 2 years, is that I have done all this inner work, and I've really worked on like doing the shadow work and looking at, your inner child wounding, and then sort of waiting, like holding space for my husband to be like, catch up, like I'm here, I'm waiting for you to meet me. And it's true, that saying is like, you can't expect them to be where you are. So you can't sort of force them to go into their own healing, or you can't heal them yourselves. They've got to be willing to meet you halfway. And there is a lot of shift in that in a lot of relationships. I found that a lot of conversations I'm having with other women in different circles are like separating, or they've found a new partner, and like dynamics have changed, and co-parenting, that wasn't a thing before when I started my family. So yeah, it's really, really interesting the times we're living in right now, and the shifts and the energetics around relationships.
Mm. And I think one thing that I've noticed in my family structure, and this won't relate to all women, but I've noticed that you know the women tend to lead the way, and I do feel like this is part of the new frequency coming in. But we have been asked to lead the way with our divine feminine and our balanced masculine in place. This is not about becoming a matriarchy. This is not about women being on top of men hierarchically. This is about leaning back into the feminine principle, into which lies in all of us, the feminine principle. So men and women leaning back into the feminine principle and allowing that to be the guiding force for the new earth. And when that becomes the guiding force, and then the masculine supports that, then that's when I see, you know, a beautiful balance come in. And I notice this within my own business structure, for example, when I soften and drop deeply into my feminine receptive self, and I become a channel, and a channel with that holistic vision. then I receive the guidance of where I need to direct my business, and then I summon my masculine resources and intention, and I go forward from there. But it's my feminine self that leads the way, and I notice this in my parenting capacity as well. That when I drop into the pure intention of very deep nurturing into myself and my family structure, whether that's nurturing my children's minds on an education level, and where best I might do that, I choose to send my children to Steiner, for example, or nurturing my children's bodies, or their emotional well-being, nurturing the relationships within the structure of the family. When my feminine self is there to nurture, and I have the support of the masculine within that structure to do that, we all thrive. All of the relationships in my family thrive. And so I just wanted to speak to that. And I can see Daniel dropping in. We'll welcome Daniel in a second. So I wanted to speak to that ability for the masculine to be really present to the supporting of that feminine frequency, which is not female, but it's that yin approach, with the yang energy just in support of that.
Absolutely. I agree with the feminine leads energetically. Absolutely. And passionate partnerships is another aspect that we cover in the work that we do in my realm, in my world. And it really comes back to it's that paradox, consciously keeping the polarity and the spark and the passion alive as we do come into more unity within ourselves, and then creating it more in our partnerships as well. There's no need and that brings forth more compassion and more, what I like to use, honor and respect that I think has been missing for a very long time. And it's really helping people transition out of codependency and more into the dance and how beautiful the partnerships can be, whether that's with your children or with your romantic partner, or just in general, all across the board. It's just that's what invites that synergy. And once we actually prioritize that unity, like I always tell the women in my space, the capacity of our receptivity really determines the quality of our giving in partnerships. And that can actually go, beyond sexual orientation, but to really live open-heartedly and to receive, and then show up and honor and respect where the other person is at. There's no room for fighting or arguments when we're able to shift the sand that some relationships were originally built on to keep their egos safe, which doesn't allow for expansion or growth of any kind. They're more so in that codependent dynamic to just keep things a certain way. And I really think that's what we're transitioning into, is really nurturing people's individuality and respecting and bringing an honor back that's been missing.
Absolutely. Hi, Daniel. Just want to welcome Daniel to the space.
Hey, Daniel.
You're on mute at the moment. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself to us.
Hello, that's better. Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
No problem. My name is Daniel. I am an inner child worker, so I'm a master practitioner in NLP, Neuro-Linguistics Programming, also a master hypnosis practitioner, and I'm a master in ECT, which is Emotional Change Technique. So what I do with ECT is our unconscious mind knows where we've been and it knows where we're going. So it stores all kinds of memories, traumas, emotions, bad habits, all in our unconscious mind. And when we don't heal whatever we are suppressing, we will continue to repeat that over and over and over in our life. So what I do is I find the root cause of any emotion or trauma that keeps coming up in someone's life. I can then send them back from their timeline using ECT and give them the resources that they needed back then that they did not have, and the resources that other individuals in that event didn't have. And then I healed that whole timeline, so every single event. So things like anger, sadness, hurt, guilt, grief, worthiness, self-love, all those kind of things that hold people back, and we don't know how to heal that. Well, that's exactly what I do. So I love healing the inner child. I love doing work where people can actually see the patterns continuing all throughout their lives. Because once we understand the patterns, we can stop them. And then I can empty the container, the negative container, and then we can just focus on the future. Because what we think is what we create. So if we're going to sit in the past and dwell on the past, then we're going to continue the past into our future. Whereas if we can just accept the past for what the past is, and then it's just a learning curve to where we are today, we can then focus all our energy onto the future and bring into our lives what we truly desire.
Yeah, beautiful. And would you like to share a little bit about, your interest in the topic of a call to a new way of relating?
New way of relating. It would have to be communication. So communication is key. I think if everyone knew how to communicate their issues, their problems, or anything going on in their life, I think the new way of relating would be absolutely perfect. We all have stuff going on. And back in the day when I was a kid, it was men, you don't cry because you're a man. Big boys don't cry and stuff like that, which is programming us to suppress any emotions that come up. And then for me in the past, it was I would bottle all those emotions up until a little firecracker would pop off, and then it would just come busting out and I'd have no control over it. So I think communication is number one. Learn to feel your emotions so you can heal them, and learn to speak and voice them to people that actually can support you in that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to, we'll come back to you again, Daniel. Does anyone else want to speak to this aspect of, what sort of new frequency we're calling in with relationships, which couldn't be broader than just our one-on-one intimate relationships, can relate to relationships in general with all humans, all people. But yeah, does anyone else want to continue that thread of a new way of relating in the time of the Great Awakening?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on, because I love what you shared, Daniel, because I feel like especially in with men, how they've been conditioned to not feel emotions, not talk about it. And that also comes with, being open to expressing yourself, as you said, communication, but also in communicating it peacefully and holding space with no judgment. And I also feel like, there's a big thing about, especially in the last 2 years, with mental health, people not being able to express themselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, and not having that safe space to do that. And I love that you touched on with like emotional attachments to past, traumas or experiences. And I do read and watch a lot of Dr. Joseph Dispenza. I feel like he explained this so eloquently with letting go of like the shame and guilt of past traumas. And every time we recall that past event, we're wiring and firing things, the same circuits and brain circuits and body signals, or like calling on those same emotions. And that's why we keep bringing up those, or connecting or holding on to those old stories that don't serve us. So there's a huge shift in like really letting go and just being able to feel safe and like express yourself. And, a lot of people have come from alcohol abuse or drug abuse or whatever their poison that they chose to deal with all those suppressed emotions. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Daniel.
Yes, and the art of communication is definitely one of the big keys. I mean, it plays, life or death is in the tongue. It's casting spells. So, it's very important to what we're creating, and not only to keep the passion alive in personal relationships, but just being able to speak to the dominant energy that's within union, within each individual. is important, but also in other partnerships and different aspects outside of personal relationships. But really anchoring in, and it ties again always back to the powerful individuality and anchoring in safety. Because once we feel safe in our body, we're able to communicate easier, smoother, more efficiently, and we can come together more easily. Because we're more open and apt, I believe, to listen when we're anchored in safety instead of becoming reactive or defensive, or just allowing for all the possibilities to surface and leverage it for our own refinement.
Yeah.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
Please do, Jo.
For instance, a male who's in a family who's finding it hard to find ways to express himself to either his wife or partner or children, do you have any tips for someone, Daniel? Sorry, this question is for you, Daniel. Do you have tips for, our men out there who are really wanting to relate to their family in a new way, but just can't find the tools or the way to express themselves? Can you speak to that?
I would get help. Like, for what purpose in this lifetime now are we not seeking help? So, I mean, like, if there's somewhere where you want to be, if you know you're not communicating well, if you know you're being irrational, or you're outbursting with anger, or you can't control your sadness or anxiety or whatever it may be, for what purpose are you sitting with that by yourself and not getting help? There's so much help out there now. There's so many people with the great tools, great resources that can literally help you. So, like, I look at it, I like to say this to my clients. It's like, do you think Mike Tyson would have been the fighter he was if he didn't have the trainer he had in his corner? It was a good deal that he probably wouldn't have, because he had the help there. He had the right tools, he had the right resources, he had the right trainer in his corner. So the same thing is life. If life's the ring, for what purpose would you want to go in that ring by yourself and not have someone in your corner telling you how to do it? So that's my, get help. Like, it's not weak to speak, and it's not weak to get help. And if you really care about your family, you would benefit yourself by investing in yourself. And then what that does is, once you know the tools and the resources, you can then spread that out to your family.
That brings me to courage. And a lot of things that I see with my clients is they don't know when the right time, they can't decipher, they don't have the discernment to decipher whether them wanting to leave is a soul contract ending versus them just being in their ego. So a lot of people tend to stay way too long in relationships that have way past their expiration date, out of comfort, again, which comes back to building on sand, which is what we are flipping so people can start creating on solid foundations.
Speaking from experience myself, one tool that we have used as a family unit is seeking kinesiology, and that was a life changer, especially for myself and my husband, who had alcohol abuse, which at the time he didn't know, it stemmed from his inner childhood upbringing. So like, as you said, seek help. A lot of people actually don't know what help looks like, right? So, maybe it's just talking to a friend. So if you're going to church or something, someone you can confide in, I believe, is a great way to start speaking up and start saying you need help, rather than sitting with it in all this turmoil and being in your head so much and not actually physically doing something about it. But kinesiology, there's great resources out there, absolutely. And Reiki, there's so many.
There's so many. And that comes down to, like you said, it's courage, right? So first of all, you've got to go, okay, I'm not happy with myself. And then second of all, you've got to find the courage to go get help. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest struggle at the moment with men in society. Like, I'm having a lot of women coming to my events. I'm having a lot of women reach out and want to work with me. And it's like a lot more women than it is men. So there's something still suppressing the men, whether that's the olden ways of just not feeling, or not, it's too weak to speak, or it's getting the help. Like, it's just, I think there's something out there. We just need to break through that. And once we have a few more men just breaking through it and having the courage to get help to benefit themselves and their family and the closest ones around them, the world will shift in a huge way.
Daniel, would you say that for men, they have a different way of processing things than women?
Yes. So what I find with my male clients is, like, I have to push to crack. So, like, when I go down on their timeline, a lot of the times it's I don't know, or it's I can't remember. Whereas minds don't process negative. So when someone tells me I don't know, they're actually telling me they do know. They just don't want to access whatever there's blocking them. So then I've got to push harder and harder. However, women have been taught or have been told to feel, and it's okay to cry. So I feel as though women are just more, okay, this is here. I'm gonna feel it now, and then they move through it straight through the timeline. It's amazing. But yeah, men, like, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of men seeking help out there, and yeah, it's getting bigger. I feel like there's that sort of push pull from the olden days to the new ways, and it's just we need to snap that and just fully come forward.
Yeah, I also wanted to speak into, sorry, Zoe, to cut you off. But as you were speaking, Daniel, something came to me about generational pain and ways of dealing things. So it's like, you know, this is how my father dealt with it, and this is how I've learned, and, you know, my grandfather and Greg, like, you know, and just that ripple effect, you know, and it's like cutting the ties of what the patriarchal way of doing things, because it obviously didn't serve us, you know. And I see that a lot too, you know, that's what they do is what they know. So it's like, you know, unknowing and unlearning all of that, you know, and you don't know what you don't know.
That's right. And
Yeah.
it is like we will pass our traumas down if we don't heal them. So I've gone back to my timeline now, back to 8 generations. I've also had a client that's gone back all the way to King John. And she held all that guilt that King John did as a king before he signed the Magna Carta, where he executed like 150,000 people or something like that. So she was carrying that kind of guilt. I've seen my granddad's like emotions from when he was a child growing up in the war, and how he's passed it on to my father, and how he's passed it on to me. And I can even see it in my brothers as well, although they're not ready for help. So you can't push people that don't want help. So yeah, it's generational trauma is 100% a thing, and it's something that we need to address. So it's another question, right? For what purpose would you not want to end your family trauma so that your kids can live happy, free, trauma-free life? Like, it's a no-brainer for me.
And that brings a unique point for me is, because a lot of the work I do is obviously anchoring in the feminine for women mostly, but living in the now moment to moment. So what if the generational was transcended from being in the moment? So then the importance would become, again, nurturing the powerful individuality and the children that we're raising, so they know how to play the game of life, to process it moment to moment and live moment to moment. And I think once we have so many people, you know, understanding their own unique process for playing their own game in life, it's just a huge ripple effect, instead of going into the past and going into the future, but actually alchemizing it in real time and having the focus shift. I think that's a huge aspect and vision that I have with the new way of relating and this new way of being in the world once you have come back. Because in my experience with spiritual awakening, the journey, it starts in consuming and then it flips into contribution. And the spectrum kind of collapses to where you literally are moment to moment honoring your process, which is how then you can honor somebody else's process.
Absolutely.
I just want to loop back to something you said, Daniel, that around masculine not being given permission to cry and to really feel their feelings. And you know, my sense is that one of the reasons that the system isn't working with relationships at the moment is because we still that patriarchal approach, which we're all, we're all keyed into that system and running that system. So this is not a male-female sort of projection, but it's more taking full responsibility that we currently have been living in a paradigm where control is very important and being top dog is being important. So we've lost that weaving of the holistic vision that encompasses our relationships and our interrelational connectivity to the planet. And I guess what I mean by that is when we feel that our responsibility is to the whole system and to each other, then we create a way of relating where every being in that relationship is valued, because we can't, it's the recognition that we can't be in heaven here in Australia. I'll just use that example because that's where I am. If there's nuclear warfare going on in one of our neighbouring lands, or we can't be in harmony here in isolation in this family pod if our community is in dire straits. So it's recognising that we are all so interlinked, and so me getting better and me getting ahead in the world is of no purpose if we can't all join that and all work together as a community and create healing and resources for all of us. Because my belief is that we live in a really abundant world, and if we took care of, and that's that feminine principle of tending to and nourishing and having that holistic vision, if we were to do that in all of our family and interrelational structures, we would not be having these troubles. And instead of painting the picture of, the masculine model, which you have to sacrifice feelings to achieve what you need to achieve, because this is something that I feel we face in today's world, is that men feel an enormous burden to, even though there's been so many changes through the system of, women creating their own abundance sources and that sort of thing, men still often in family structures feel quite a burden to have it all together, to be a provider, and not to let their feelings get in the way of that and just keep on. And that's where that toxicity sort of dwells, is that if we can't feel our emotions and feel our vulnerability and not be the one that's got it all together all the time, if we can't be those things, then we can't move into a new paradigm of being in ourselves and in our relationships. We can't trust the organic unfolding of the messiness of life, and give space for those deeper feelings of feeling afraid and feeling sad and feeling like we haven't all got it together. Because one thing I notice is that the conditioning is on men to not cry and be vulnerable, whereas women have a different level of conditioning. It's okay for them to cry and be vulnerable. They're kind of, it's almost socially acceptable and approved of, but it's not okay for them to feel angry. You're a bitch, you're a this, you're a that. You're not okay if you're in your angry self. Whereas men get the opposite. It's okay for them to, be angry. It's almost expected of them. That's, boys will be boys, and but crying is just not acceptable. And it all comes down to that control dynamic. The women need to be able to feel their sacred rage and go, no, this is not okay on planet right now. This is not okay. I do not accept this in my relationships anymore. That kind of dynamic. And so feel their sacred anger. And men also need to be able to feel their sacred grief and go, my heart is breaking, seeing the world as it is, or seeing, whatever it is that is causing that, is there as grief to be felt. Daniel, I think you were going to say something, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, that was great. So in a relationship, we've got three entities, right? We've got ourselves, our partner, and the relationship itself. So if we can acknowledge each of our individual mind, the individual souls, our feelings, emotions, bad habits, traumas, if we can communicate that into the relationship and have a safety net. So that could look like monthly check-ins where you sit down for an hour or so and you go, okay, this triggered me. I was upset about this. This is what made me frustrated. And it's a full safety net, right? And if you feel like you're getting triggered, then to go take some space apart or set boundaries in place where you can feel more comfortable, whether it's you're taking a break to go and cuddle or a snuggle or you're just going to go and take a break. So we have to really remember that the relationship is its own entity and that whatever we do as individuals, we're going to add to that. And if we're going to add all our trauma and all our negative stuff for the other person to carry, it's just not going to work. Because eventually the weight's going to get way too heavy and that person will just collapse or outburst or want to leave. So if we can address this, the relationship, communicate, and like you said, it's the masculine to provide 100%, but they should also be providing a safety net for the feminine to speak the way she's feeling and the kids and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely.
I think the art of communication plays into that extremely too. So women can kind of understand the difference between not taking the time to process and then to come back and share from a very from a holier place versus just projecting all of her emotions onto him, but rather understanding her process and coming back and then saying, this is what I experienced, like this is, and sharing from a grounded space.
Yeah, perception is projection. So if you're getting triggered by something, where in yourself are you not healed that?
Right.
Perception is projection. So another example would be, I'm not really feeling how committed you are to me in this relationship. Okay, so if perception is projection, where are you not committing to yourself in your life? And if you can understand perception is projection, then you can communicate a lot better. So when the feminine does express her emotions, instead of getting triggered by what she's saying or taking it as an attack on yourself, you can sit there and go, okay, this is the way she's feeling. This is what she needs. And then you can offer that support of what she needs. Or you can even ask her, what do you need from me right now? What would you like from me right now for you to feel better?
Right. And then that actually touches on the importance of women actually honoring their evolution. And it always comes back to the powerful individuality and getting in tune with themselves to know what they need so they can express what they need from men and how they can be supported. It's important that they're in tune with how they can be supported and to know the best way for them to be supported.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's got to work both ways, right? The support's got to work both ways. So if the masculine comes to the feminine and says, look, I'm really feeling really triggered right now. This is what happened the other day. So it works the same way. Like the feminine can't get triggered and go, oh, but you did this. It's just going to turn into a blow up.
Right.
So she just creates a safety net for him, which a lot of masculine men these days haven't had that safety net.
And a shadow pattern is the mothering from women.
Right.
Your man is not there to fix. And, I'm here if you need anything, and let him go do his processing, and then you can collaboratively come back and communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. If the love is there, then that's like at the end of the day, that's all you need at the end of the day is love. If you can communicate and have the love, you're going to be together forever.
Yeah.
It's just given. So yeah, I feel as though a lot of people will get into a relationship and they'll go, oh, it's not working out for me because this, and this. Have you communicated that with that person? Have you said that to that person? Have you actually sat down and said that this is not working because of this?
Right.
Because then what happens is it creates mistrust. Yeah, it creates a mistrust because then when you go, oh, I love you, but I'm not feeling this, and that other person's going, well, you haven't told me any of this stuff before, and then it just creates a huge mistrust, and it can cause more trauma, and especially if they don't know how to see that. It's just communication and love, and your relationship will last forever. It's given.
And that ties back to you, Zoe, earlier, personal responsibility, that powerful individuality through responsibility. That's where the money's at,
Yeah, 100%.
I love this. And, I really sense that how do we take full sovereign responsibility for our own governance and our own how we show up and how we show up to ourselves and to our emotions and then to our relationships? Because I feel like if we're not really showing up to our own experience, then we're not going to be able to communicate it. So there's so many different processes involved, and this self-mastery journey is a big part of really successful relationships. And so some of the things that are coming to mind, some of the tools that I see are important for all humans, male or female, to develop are the capacity for introception, that ability to reflect inwards and to sense what is happening in our inner realms. Because if we're always in projection mode of looking out of like, you did that, that's why I feel this because you're doing that, then we've lost that nuance of being able to turn inwards and go, oh, I noticed that was a bit of a trigger for me. Why was that a bit of a trigger for me? And is this a pattern for me? Do I often get triggered in this kind of emotional way, you know, when I perceive something's happening in life? And so when we have that ability to reflect inwards and to feel the subtle changes in our own ecosystem, our own internal system, then when we can catch those changes and the different feelings and emotions connected to our inner landscape, when we can do that, then we're more able to be empowered to then decide what we want to do with those emotions. Like, do we need to just move some energy right now? Do we need to just take ourselves out and get some exercise and move the stagnant energy that's in our physical bodies or in our mental bodies? Do we need to do that, or do we need to communicate? Because sometimes we don't always need to communicate. We just need to do our own realignment and then bring our full selves, and then, you know, ask that question of ourselves, like, is there something I need to communicate here? Oh, no, I just need to clear my own energy field right now. I don't need to put that on my partner. I'll go and do that. And then if there's still something there to communicate, I can communicate that. So I think that this journey of self-mastery has to be the beginning of the story, the beginning and the middle and the end of the story. And then we come into relating from there. So yeah, I'm really passionate about that self-responsibility, accountability for our own internal experience. And I love what you said there, Daniel, about your projection, your perception, I think you said. Did I get that right?
Perception is projection.
Yeah, sorry, the other way around.
Yeah.
I love that because, you know, it is about our own perception and then what we create beyond that. So yeah, just in terms of taking full responsibility for our own creation, what we are seeing, what we're experiencing, what we're reacting to, and then comes that ability to govern that, you know, govern our own energies as to, well, what we need to do to align ourselves. Do we need to do some movement work? Do we need to nourish our bodies more? Do we need to receive some support and some help? Daniel, you referred to that, so that we're not an island trying to figure it all out on our own. And then communicate that. Yeah. So I'm just feeling like we've got 10 minutes before the end of this. What more needs to come into the conversation here around a new, like what times are we in, this time of the new awakening? What does that mean to us all individually? Might be another good question to lean into.
For me personally, I feel that it's a collective awakening to where we can all come together more effortlessly and more efficiently and allow for more abundance. I mean, it's, you know, kind of like Tarsh had said at the very opening of this launch portal, it's like you're looking down a barrel and we're at a choice point. You can choose love or you can choose fear. And when you understand how to play the game, and that it's just playing with different frequencies and different patterns, like there's no right or wrong. It's literally just playing with the patterns of energy. And I think we're moving into love, we're moving into abundance. And of course, there are going to be those that will still be stuck in the density of the fear, but it's always available to them to choose differently.
For me, it's practicing forgiveness. So like for yourself, for your own wrongdoings, or your harmful ways that you, or self-sabotaging is what comes to me. And then choosing to go back to those old patterns. And I feel like, you know, sometimes we were really, really hard on ourselves because our journey is never stagnant. It's never like one way. You could detour one way and come back to where you originally were meant to be. So forgiving yourself in ways where, you know, you made a wrong choice or you decided to detour, but then also forgiving others that you've let go, that are no longer in your life, or just forgiving, you know, ancestors, current family and friends, you know, and then leaning into the future. And one forgiveness prayer I don't know if anyone's heard of is the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is an ancient Hawaiian prayer where you just say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I do this in repetition even before I go to sleep. So it's a great way to honor yourself, honor your higher self, and move forward. So.
And a big key that I left out is appreciation and understand that life is actually for you. It's not happening to you, and just appreciation for each other and what they're contributing to your evolution and you to theirs.
Yeah. I think for me, like having self-awareness around everything that's happening in your life will then give you the control of what actions you take. You can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. If you have self-awareness and, like you said, forgiveness. So if you vibrate compassion, love, and gratitude, your vibration's at the highest vibration frequency you can possibly be at. Therefore, anyone that's around you in that frequency will have to match yours, because positive will always attract the negative and then lift up the negative. So if you can have self-awareness, okay, I'm feeling a bit off right now. What am I grateful for right now? And then rattle some things off into your mind. Your mind is the most powerful thing, and you can program it to what you want it to do. So if you're feeling sad, or you're feeling angry, or feeling, you know, not loved or anything like that, you can literally program yourself to feel something different. So what I just did a 5-5 challenge, and on day 3, so 5-5 challenge is where I run 5Ks every 5 hours for 5 days. On day 3, my right knee started like in agony. It was in deep pain. So the first K or first 2 Ks, I was limping, I was in pain, and then that came out the ego with all the bad habits. Just stop, just walk, just quit, all those things that weren't serving me. So what I did was you can map emotions across. So while I'm running, I'm like, okay, how am I going to feel when I finish this challenge? What emotions would be there the moment I finish my last run? Is it going to be pride? Is it going to be honor? Is it going to be full of love? And all I did was I just mapped that across to the present moment, and then just dropped it into my body. And then the pain would go from like an 8 to a 3. So again, like if you are feeling down, then either just rattle off 5 things you're grateful for, or 5 things that you love about yourself, or just think of the most happiest moment of your life and just live in that moment right then and there, and then just map it over to your present self now.
That's so cool.
Oh, I just love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to pick up on a thread that Alison spoke to about the, you know, for me, the new awakening is about the abundance codes. And abundance, I'm not talking physical finance, because this is a very old school frequency or exchange finances in the way that we know it. I'm talking about the type of abundance frequency that is on multiple levels of existence. You know, fundamentally, like if you look at our own energy systems in the human energy system, you know, all of the portals of high energy frequency open and aligned and attuned, the heart space, you know, really opened and aligned, all of the different energy centers of the body. And this is creating a new frequency in our own bodies, and we align to that new frequency in our body when we do this work, when we, like what you're talking about there with that future mapping, and Daniel, and what you're talking about, Alison, with the abundance codes being present. You know, like we've only got to connect to them, connect to the and Joe, you're talking about the gratitude and the forgiveness. When we do these processes and we resonate with, we vibrate with that gratitude and that expansion and the potentiality that is awake in every single living moment that we live. When we connect into that, and we can do that in a microsecond, it doesn't have to be a big drawn out process. It's just a choice to go, what am I rooting into now? Am I rooting into my pain body? Am I rooting into the wrongness of things in my inner world or my outer world, or the wrongness in my relationships? Or am I anchoring into a energetic frequency that connects me to the abundant source of, you know, Gaia potentiality on the planet right now? And that's when I notice in my own life and in my ripple of relationships with my children, with my relationships near and far, and even my my business community. I've just seen Daniel's just said he needs to go because he has a client. So do you want to? I'll finish that sentence now so that you get a chance to say goodbye to us. Any concluding words, Daniel?
Yeah. You're back on the camera.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You speak now.
I can't see. Is there something happened to the camera? I don't know what's going on here. Can you see me?
Yeah,
we can pin you. 1 second. Yeah. We can see you. Oh,
okay, because I can't see you guys.
Okay, you actually have gone. That's okay. But we can hear you. So just speak. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And like you were just saying, like self-awareness and just being, you know, with yourself and showing self-love and all that kind of stuff is so beneficial, not only for yourself, but people the most around you. And I would encourage anyone that listens to this, if you're not feeling at your fullest potential or your limitless potential, to write out exactly how you can get to where you want to get to, and then take the steps and the actions to get to that place. Because you not working on yourself is doing a disservice to the people most around you and the world.
Love that.
Beautiful. That's a really good motivational point.
Thanks for that, Daniel. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I can't even see you.
We're in the void, back into the void.
I'm in the ether. I'm just looking at my wallpaper right now.
We're with you, not alone. It was very beautiful to have a masculine voice in the mix, and such a conscious presence of all the tools that you use in your own life and in your working life, and clearly in your family life as well. So big gratitude from this end.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was an honor being on here, and I'm excited for this book launch. I'm very excited to read everyone's chapters, and I'm excited to see the movement that we create. So, yay.
Fantastic. Don't forget to put in the comments how people can connect with you, Daniel. I know you have to go, or you can say briefly now as we're winding up.
Yeah, so I have socials, which is Daniel G. Bartlett, Become Reborn, Facebook and Instagram. Just go ahead and message me there. I've got my LinkedIn there. If you want to get on a discovery call, it's free discovery call. And yeah, I love working with people that love doing the work. Like I've just finished a couple of breakthroughs the last couple of weeks, and seeing them reach their 3-month goals in 8 weeks is so heartwarming for me. And then seeing like one of them, his son is just fully transformed as well. So that's the vibration, right? So I'm helping one person, but that one person, because he changes, then helps another. So that's the domino effect. I love it. And yeah, I'm excited to just smash this out for the rest of my life.
Woo! Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
See you. Who else would like to just give some final words and a little bit about how people can find you, and maybe what you can offer to people with relating, just what you offer into the world?
I just want to sit in that energy. That was just amazing. Like Daniel just left us in such a high vibrational frequency. That was just amazing. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. It's Jo Thompson. On Insta, it's Jo Thompson 685. Yes, I'm launching in September a program to activate inner queen, to remove disharmony and call in harmony for yourself and your family. So yeah, that's what I'm passionate about.
Beautiful. Thank you for your words of wisdom today, Jo. Lovely
Thanks,
having
Zoe.
you.
You've been an amazing facilitator this week. I love listening to
Been
you.
busy. A joy though. Thank you. Alison, do you want to share anything, darling?
Yeah, I'll share. So I help creatives and entrepreneurs really access wealth and prosperity with the least amount of effort and complexity. So majority of the time, it's love and the calling on people's hearts. So I basically help women remember their core essence, their feminine essence, and it all ties into the relationships and the passionate partnerships that we're here to cultivate. And then on the other side, I work with men and women with actually shifting their businesses into more of a synergistic hierarchy and launching the vision that they've been given. They know that they're game changers in this new paradigm that we're moving into. And as the world shifts out of it, a lot of new things are going to be born. And so helping them actually bring that into the world.
Thank you.
Yes. And I'll drop down below. I do have my signature North Star Initiative sessions, which is reconnecting to your inner authority. And I'll put that down below.
Do you, just in closing, just in a sentence or two, I know this is a very big question, but you mentioned the new things that are coming. Can you paint a picture of anything that you've seen in your visioning of what's new and what is coming?
The vision I keep getting is a puzzle with puzzle pieces, which it really is the perfect symbolization for the synergistic hierarchy and people really nurturing more of the cyclical versus the linear A to B hierarchy, you know, and we're kind of moving away from that so people can be literally working in their zone of geniuses for their maximum contribution to a collective mission, whether that's within a business or on a grand world scale. I mean, it can go obviously micro to macro, but yeah, I keep getting that image all the time ever since I conceived and received my brand to bring into the world. It's been that puzzle piece.
Yeah, I love that. The synergistic hierarchy. Fantastic. Gonna run with that. Oh, well, yeah, big thank you guys for today, for all you've brought. A little about myself, you can find me at Soul Arts, soul-arts.com. Primarily my main focal point has been for the last sort of 25 years, although I had a acupuncture clinic and various modalities for men and women. Primarily I've done a lot of focus work for working with women, and so the Feminine Embodiment Training is my main signature program. It was a 10-month training, it's now a 5-month training, but with in-person retreats and sacred journeys is my... Elias couldn't join us today, he messaged me. He actually thought it was tomorrow, so that's what's happened there. But Elias and I work together with sacred journeys, so this is the journey of the masculine and feminine, and using transformational processes to really up level on the masculine, feminine, and on the whole spirit level to really step into this new frequency of new world creation. So yes, I'll leave it there. Thank you all so much, and yeah, we'll put in our details below. Thanks for joining this.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
See you later.